I joined research so that I can meditate. I can do whatever I want. And my family and these people in society thinks that this guy Nishant Garg is doing PhD from IIM and he's doing something great. That is when it struck me that I am losing on a treasure of knowledge. It's something great that is happening around me and I'm just losing it. If you live long enough on this planet, then you all start having these philosophical questions. What is the meaning of life? How I can be happy? Who should I marry? If I have to call myself a professor, I owe the responsibility to profess, to create a body of knowledge.
Hey folks, welcome to Discorso, the IIM Bodh Gaya podcast. Today we have with us Professor Nishant Garg, who did his PhD from IIM Lucknow, who is a Harvard delegate and he has done over 5 years of research in topics like mindfulness, well-being and business intelligence. In this episode, Professor Nishant would be talking about how he got into research.
So you have such a fascinating journey in terms of like you delving into research. Can you just tell us about the background? What inspired you to join research?
Okay, it's a very interesting story about it. I joined research as a social facade. I joined this PhD program so that I can meditate. I can do whatever I want. And, my family and these people in society thinks that, this guy Nishant Garg is doing PhD from IIM and, he's doing something great. You would have seen these memes, no? This is what my parents think I do, what my friends think. So similar to that, I tried to use this PhD program so that I can have more freedom. And actually that is also the point of the program. But now coming to research, what made me very curious, about it. So I went to this conference called INDAM. It's called the Indian Academy of Management. Okay. And it was in Mumbai. And I went to Mumbai to enjoy the beaches and to enjoy the city. So after doing my presentation on all, I invited the session chair for a dinner. His father was a professor at our institution, IIM Lucknow, and then I invited him out of courtesy. So can we go out and hang out? I was like a very social person. And then we went out and he introduced me to another person. And then I could kind of shake hand with him. I thought that he's a businessman from Mumbai.
Okay.
Yeah, then I met him, I shook hand with him and I said, have you also come for the conference? And he was like, when you go for a conference, do you see the website? He was actually the chairperson for the entire conference.
Okay.
And his photograph was the first when you open the website. And that time this guy told me that people, for at least 6 months have been writing me emails to get just 5 minutes of my time. Yeah. And now that you have my time. So that is that is when it struck me that I am losing on a treasure of knowledge. It's something great that is happening around me. And I'm just losing it. And that is how my interest began. And he has been my mentor and my friend for quite a while now.
Yeah. Okay. So, sir, why do you want to become a professor?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting saying. So one of my friend, he did his, he started his PhD from Georgia Tech. Yeah, so we had this, late night conversation. We used to go on walks. So IIM Lucknow was a really great pathway. It's like kind of a jungle kind of stuff and you walk entire night and people have these intellectual discussions. And that is why I think so you go to these great institutions. It is not because, they'll suddenly make you great. It is because the kind of peers you have. So you can expect that if you go to an IIT or a good IIM, so in a small square feet of area, you have collected the most intelligent people maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, if not intelligent, then potential to be intelligent. Yeah. So you can have great conversations.
Okay.
To have the same conversation outside the campus, maybe I would have talked to 100 people and then I would have a good conversation. Yeah, maybe that is how. So then he told me, we had this conversation that, what is a professor? So why we are not a teacher? So maybe if I was teaching in a school or maybe a college, then I would be teaching something which someone else has made.
Okay.
I will be kind of propelling that teaching which is already made. But as a professor, if I have to call myself a professor, I owe the responsibility to profess, to create a body of knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is not about writing one paper or making one idea. It is about building a system they can last for at least a decade.
Okay.
So 5 years you do your PhD, and at least after 5-10 years you'll be doing research. So you have to build systems so that you can produce at least 10-15 great ideas. So it is not about putting one idea into place. It is about learning the process of ideation.
Okay.
The problem with us is that we fancy, I will have this eureka moment, one great idea. But that is not. Ideation is a skill. You have to build systems so that you can generate ideas which last for a decade.
Okay.
But now the question or the tension over here is that how do you stay relevant? Because your interest might change. Yeah? Or the trend might change. Or the conversation that these people are having might change. And then if you change your topic, then you cannot go deep enough. But if you do not change your topic, then you miss out on this opportunity. So what to do? So that is why a very interesting way is to start from a theory.
Okay.
Theory is a very broad way thing. It is a lens which sharpens your focus. So a very big world, and I would want to see the world from the theory of social identity.
Okay.
How do people with interactions form identity? So I will see all the phenomena through that lens. Yeah. So now it gives you freedom to explore different phenomena. I can see entrepreneurship from that lens.
Okay.
How do entrepreneurs build social identity? I can see women from that lens. How do women leaders build identity through that?
Yes.
Yeah. So it brings coherence in your work. So you'll become very, very proficient in one theory. Because ultimately research has to make a theoretical contribution.
Okay.
If you do not stay with a theory for 5-10 years, how can you make a great theoretical contribution? So stick with that theory and maybe you can change the topic. And this also solves the problem of your advisor. Like if your advisor wants to work on some other topic, you can use the theory that you love and maybe use on that topic.
Okay.
So if your advisor wants to work on mindfulness, then try to understand that how mindful people create identity. So now the problem is solved because theory is a broad thing and it helps you to build the boundary.
So stick to a theory of your interest, apply
Correct.
it across topics.
Yeah, so if you take a theory and then you take a topic and on the overlap of that, it builds a boundary. Yeah, entrepreneurship and identity. And if I coincide them, so the boundary is built, which is entrepreneurial identity.
Okay.
So it becomes very easy for me to do a literature review as well. A lot of people say that, I do not know which paper to read, where to start. There are millions of papers if you go on Google Scholar. How would you start? So if you can pick a good intersection, a great theory and a great relevant phenomenon. So entrepreneurship is a relevant phenomenon of today's world, which is a relevant phenomenon. So I as a researcher come from the literature of identity. Like I did not start with entrepreneurship. Yeah. So now I see the relevant phenomenon. You would see all around India, there are entire schools being built on entrepreneurship, entire courses, entire labs. So that means entrepreneurship is a relevant phenomenon. So now I start seeing this new relevant trendy phenomenon which people want to understand from my old lens of theory.
Okay.
And this will also help, how, because when a new trend emerges, so there's something called call for papers. So the top journals will launch call for papers.
Okay.
Yeah. So these call for papers will be very trendy. Maybe for example, AI. Yeah. Something like that. So you cannot, immediately build great idea on AI. But if I already have good hold on theory of identity, then I can enter into the world of AI and build good ideas. Because half of the work is already done. And that is how great scholars, build great papers. So if you remember a great scholar in his entire lifetime, he would have given 3 or 4 great theories. And out of that, one will become immemorable. And that is how we know their names. Maybe Maslow's hierarchy of need. So that is one great theory that we remember of this guy. And that is what you have to do. That is how you have to plan. Maybe you write 100 papers. Out of that, you write great 5 theory papers. Out of that, you kind of wish or luck or pray that one of them becomes really, really successful. Like for J. Barney, the resource-based view became so hugely successful that this one paper has more citations than an entire country's researchers combined together.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is, I think, the obligation and the pathway of a professor to profess an entire body of knowledge. So use a theory and expand that, do contribution in a theory. So use these different phenomena which your professor says is important, which the society says is important, which you think is important, which is emerging trend. All this you can do in one theory. So choosing the theory is important.
Okay.
So choose a theory which is really, really close to your heart, which you keep on thinking, so that work becomes play. Yeah. So once work becomes play, because always thinking about it, no one can beat you because you're working for 16 hours and you're not getting tired. And people only work for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours and they're getting burnout. Yeah. So I think so that being a professor is a great life if you live like that.
Okay. The journey from being a trainee to a trainer was quite interesting.